pain?
I never suffered
No.
when I was fully aware, fully
Okay. When
present.
you were fully
And
present.
no accidents have ever happened when I was aware.
Mm.
All the accidents only happened when I was lost in thought. And so that's one of the things that helped me realize, like, oh, actually I'm creating my reality. The thoughts are creating the reality. You
Mhm.
know, the thinking mind is
Mhm.
projecting. And even if I'm not aware that it's projecting, it's still projecting. I could not be aware that I'm thinking something, and then that thing occurs. It's under my consciousness, subconscious
Mhm.
sort of projection that happens. So, and it's I don't I don't think you can really control that. I mean, you maybe you can control it, but it's not so easy to control how the mind projects because it takes a lot of discipline to um, to focus the mind, and most of us Westerners don't have that kind of discipline. so so I stopped trying to control my reality at a certain point, and then I realized, like, it doesn't really matter if I control my reality or not because it's all a mirage. It's either going to be one way or another way.
So you
And
don't feel
ultimately
bad
ultimately it
if
doesn't
you
bring
are
me
real.
happiness anyway. It's not going to
Okay.
bring me happiness anyway,
Mhm.
whether it's this way or that way. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. So why try to control what's happening? So
Mhm.
that's it. That's the realization that I had. And then um then everything that I learned in these traditions that I studied in really started to make sense. You know, like, um, it doesn't really matter. Like, all of these things suddenly don't really have consequence that I used to think. They were not so important as I thought before. And the most important thing is, am I either caught up in a thought and believing in the point of view, whatever point of view I'm having? Am I caught up in that? Am I believing in that? Or am I able to step back and rest as the awareness that I am? And there's
Mhm.
always that choice. And so that's the most important choice. For me, that's the most important thing. Everything else is in a way, you could say it's superficial, you know. It's not as important as that, because that's everything. Self knowledge is everything. Self realization is the whole shebang. It's the whole deal.
But does the awareness of all that requires a certain level of suffering
What do you mean?
to come to this? It's what you're talking about. It makes sense to me, but it makes sense to me on a process of a time. Since for example, I started meditating, it starts becoming more real and more.
Right.
There's a truth in it. But I also realize, would I be able to acknowledge this some years ago or last year or in situations that I wasn't in pain, basically experiencing difficult situations? Isn't it a bit of a contrasense, uh, um, a contradiction
Contradiction.
that to understand that, to not understand logically, but to accept that what you're saying about our true wisdom and the connection with ourselves, who we really are, and not our mind and all that, it requires a certain level of suffering for you to understand it, for you to get there.
I can't generalize about that.
Mm,
Maybe for you.
mm,
Um, for me, I think my suffering drove me up against the wall.
mm-hmm. I think that's what it
It put
does.
me in a corner, and I
Yeah,
didn't have any other choice.
exactly.
So, and yeah, so suffering in that way was very useful for me,
Yeah,
and I
but
probably wouldn't have have gone that direction without the
without that,
suffering.